Today, we're going to be looking at ensuring the future of your DNA. So it's now 16 years from autosomal DNA started. And I was just thinking about this in the last couple of weeks. How many of our original testers that have tested over those years have already died? And that means that a lot of those kits are sitting in limbo, where there is maybe an email address attached, or there's an ancestry account that no one has access to. And this means that future matches that are going to see these connections whenever they test, there can be no communication with this account. And it can't be passed on to anyone else if procedures haven't been set in place. It also means that if there's a tree attached to the account, that can't be updated. Close family members who maybe have a relative who has died, who was managing their own account, they can't see the matches from that person's perspective. So they can't see the chromosome browser from that perspective or whatever. And there could be a DNA sample that could be sitting in storage somewhere that can't be used for testing because no one has been authorized to have control over that DNA sample. So we are really in a race against time, and we're trying to ensure that our DNA accounts are still active and that we're using them to the best of our abilities in generations to come. So it's something that is increasingly more important as the years go on, because people do tend to test older family members. And if people don't leave those passwords, or there's no access, or they haven't bequeathed them in their wills, it's just it's going to be, well, the information's still going to be there, but it's not going to be able to be used effectively. So I would advise everyone to have a little think about what you want to happen to your DNA account. Is there someone available who would be prepared to manage that whenever you die? And you have to also think, do you want them to do it? I would hope the answer would be yes, but it's a decision that everyone has to make for themselves. It's very important to mention your DNA accounts in your will, because that guarantees that people are authorized to ask for permission to access your DNA information or to have the account put into their email. If you want to bequeath your account, that can be done to an individual person. So it can be a family member, it can be a child, or it can be a cousin, or it can really be the person who you trust to look after your DNA when you're no longer here. It can be a society, it can be a project group, it can be whatever you want it to be. And it's just something that everyone should give a little bit of thought to, including myself and everybody else who's even younger than me, because we don't know how long we're going to be in this world. You can pass on your passwords now, and you can write them down and give somebody access to them and say that's for the future, just in case something happens. Or you may want to leave that with your will documentation or a solicitor and get that passed on to official channels after your death. So it's a particularly moot point for FamilyTreeDNA and MyHeritage because they retain the sample of DNA. So all of MyHeritage kits are processed by FamilyTreeDNA, and they retain that DNA sample, and that can be used for a new test. So it means that if you have done an autosomal test and you're male, then somebody else could potentially do a Y test or a mitochondrial test on your DNA if that hasn't already been done. It also applies to MyHeritage, and it means that if somebody has died and this is the only sample that is available, then it is possible to do a Y or a mitochondrial test if you have access to the MyHeritage account and they did the autosomal test with MyHeritage. So that's something that can also be done. So there is a concept of a kit manager on FamilyTreeDNA. And this means that anyone who is controlling the kit or managing it on behalf of somebody else, then they can communicate with matches because that is going to be their email address on that particular kit. They can update the trees, they can participate in groups, they can order any future DNA tests that would be appropriate, and they can also nominate a beneficiary to take over that account after their decease. So all of those things are possible if you're a kit manager. And on FamilyTreeDNA, it's important to keep this information on the account. And now, in the last year, they have added a kit manager section where you can put in the details of the kit manager. So when we look at this, there is actually 3 places where you can put names. You've got the contact information section here, and that should contain the information about the tester. So that should be the tester's name there, and the email address that is recorded on the contact information page is the email address that is visible to matches, and therefore that is normally the kit manager's email. But here I'm showing you the new screen for kit manager, and this is where the kit manager would record their information on that account. And the reason for this is that it then allows FamilyTreeDNA to communicate with you if you send them an email or if you are communicating with them on their phone lines. It means that you are authorized to manage this kit, and therefore they are free to speak to you and help you with whatever customer service you require. So you can just see it's a very easy form to fill out here. You can just complete that, and that means that that is recorded on that account. And then you've got another section here. You've got a beneficiary information section, and that's what we're going to look at next. So that's on this screen. And what you can do here is you can then put in a person's name, but you can also put in a group here if you want. So there's 2 options. You can put in an individual or a group as your beneficiary, and then the second option is to allow an administrator of a project to be your beneficiary. So you can put in the information there, and again, just save that. And what that means is that after your death, then that person is able to approach FamilyTreeDNA, give information that they can take over that account, and they would then have to prove the fact that you are no longer here. So a death notice or a death certificate or something along those lines would be acceptable. But there is some explanatory information here as well. So if you don't want to do it to an individual, as I said, you can make the bequeathment to a group project. And if you tick the second box, you'll see this little screen here. And this is what it looks like. So what you do is you get a little drop-down arrow, and it will allow you to see the groups that this kit is currently part of. So you can only use this if the kit is already in that group. So if you decide that you want to leave it to a group and you haven't yet joined that group, then you have to put your kit into the group first before you would put it in as the project that you want to manage your kit after your death. So the admins need to know about your death, and they need to be able to get proof of your death. As I said, it could be any form of information that would be acceptable. So it could be an online death notice. It could be something out of a newspaper. So something that proves that you have actually died. And then that is passed to FTDNA, and then they will change the email address attached to that kit to yours. And then you can nominate another beneficiary because you don't know how long you'll be around. And that is how things move on. So it's in order to ensure that these kits remain active for as long as possible, and that people can communicate with the kit manager of that kit. And this is going to be important in the years and decades to come that this is going ahead. So do take action. Think about what you want to happen to your DNA kits after your death, and think about those that you're currently managing on behalf of other people as well. Do complete those kit manager sections and the beneficiary information section. Another thing you could consider doing is providing additional swabs of DNA if you think that's something that you want to do. If you haven't got much DNA left, then maybe there is going to be something available in the future that maybe you would want to participate in after your death. So you can request additional swabs, and you can then have that stored, and then your kit manager at that stage would be able to use that DNA in order to test your DNA in future years. So do mention your DNA accounts in your will as well, because that will ensure the future of your DNA, and it will be a call to action for people, and they will then know to inform the person who has been authorized to take over your DNA accounts, and they will be able to then help to take action in order to ensure that your DNA counts do survive. Okay, I hope that was useful. Thanks very much for listening.